Hey, good morning, St. Pat's. It's good to be with you for this week's video e-newsletter. I want to take a break from my teaching series I'm doing on prayer, where I'm giving practical training on simple practices to build daily prayer into your life, and give you an update on our What's Next God process. If you remember, in early July, before my family went on vacation, I shared during the homily about my sense from the Lord that we need to ask the question, what's next, God? Where do you want us to go as a church? And out of that began a 4-phase process of answering that question. And phase 1 was a time of intercessory prayer. And so before I left on vacation, I sent out a prayer guide, a What's Next God prayer guide with a set of prayer requests, really written as a litany, and encourage all of us to be praying for that daily or regularly. And I hope you've been doing that. And then we've had a cluster of prayer meetings where we've come together and prayed through those requests and done some initial kind of listening to the Lord in that process. And we've had some folks kind of share some things with the Lord already. But the main focus of phase 1 has been intercession. And the reason for that is captured best by the metaphor of fallow ground. So if you know how in farming, oftentimes farmers will leave fields fallow for a year, they won't plant anything in it. Helps the ground kind of renew, but one of the outcomes is the ground gets hard. And so before planting can happen again, you have to break it up. And so I really felt like for us to get ready to listen and then plan and execute on what's next God, we needed to spend a season coming before the Lord, asking the Lord to work in us, to be specific about that. I've been saying recently a lot this phrase from the book of James, you have not because you ask not. And sometimes I think we feel like intercessory prayer it's so mechanistic. It can be, you make a list and you ask God for things. And I know it can have that feeling, but the truth is the scriptures enjoin us clearly to pray that way. There are other kinds of prayer. There's all sorts of other things, but we really do need to specifically ask God to do things that we want Him to do, and He responds to that and acts. And so we've been doing that, and that's been phase 1. Now we're ready to step into phases 2 and 3, and that's going to be the phase 2 of discernment, phase 3 of planning. And to do that, a couple things are going to need to happen. One is Deacon Andy and I are in the process of putting together a ministry plan, much like, if you're on a hospitality team, you have a ministry, not plan, job description. We're making a ministry job description for the discernment team. What we're going to be looking for is, 5 to 7 folks who feel called and qualified to do this kind of work for us as a body. It's going to involve meeting for a series of meetings between mid-September and maybe into early November, maybe 4 or 5 meetings, maybe a 6. We'll see. Some of that will have to be determined as we work the process out. And there'll be some spiritual maturity qualifications. We have people that are full of wisdom and full of the Holy Spirit that are part of this. And we're going to kind of put that out there and invite people to sense if they're called and discern that together, then bring a team before the body and set them apart to do that. And then what they'll do is they'll enter into phase 2, which is discernment. That's going to involve a few things. One is meeting for listening prayer, being in silence, just listening for impressions and things from the Holy Spirit, sharing that with each other, seeing if any of it rings true as something from the Lord. Second, we'll talk about things. We'll converse and discuss and think through things together, and that's part of discernment. Then we still are inviting and hoping the rest of the parish will be in a mode of listening. And if anything bubbles up outside that team, we want to hear about it. We'll bring it into that team, pray through it, and discern it. And the goal then out of that is to get at least what I call a vision template, kind of a general vision, and maybe a sense of 2 or 3 key directions we need to go. Then phase 3 is planning, and that same team will do this process, and that's where we take what we've heard, our dream for preferred future, our vision, and making a strategic plan. And the end product, that's a document. And what I'm hoping will be in that document is one sort of a far future, maybe 7 years out, kind of 2 or 3, 4, whatever seems right, key objectives. We really feel like the Lord's saying we want to pursue these things. And then a near future, maybe 2, 3 years out, a couple more things. Maybe there's subsets of those larger things that we want to pursue. And then actually develop a ministry plan for 2018, which will have a set of annual kind of goals related to the vision template and these long-term goals. And then actually in our ministry areas, what we want to achieve and accomplish in our ministry areas. We don't plan every little task out because there's a lot of things we do from week to week and month to month that we're going to do no matter what our long-term goals are. We know what they are. You don't have to change those and plan those. For example, we're not going to do a strategic plan about how to get the altar table set and get the music team rehearsed and make sure the liturgy is printed for Sunday. We do that. We know how to do that. That's ongoing. But we do want to make a plan so we can together have a sense of direction. We can have some metrics we can use to measure if we're really tracking with the Lord and where we feel like we're supposed to go. It'll help us do a better job of resourcing and budgeting our resources. And I think pull us together as a body and help us move forward together. So that's going to be more of a sort of a work group process, but I'm hoping both the same group will be able to do some of both. Probably some in the group will be stronger on the listening discernment, some stronger on the thinking and planning, but we need both kinds of folks to do that well. Then the fourth phase is to actually present that strategic plan. And I'm hoping that we can get that done by mid-December. Maybe that's too ambitious. I don't know. I've never led a church, through this specific process, but I have been in a process like this with our diocese, and it went faster than we thought it would. Oftentimes, these things aren't as complicated as they seem when you talk about them, and when you begin to pray and work through, clarity can come pretty quickly. So I want to make sure we're not stalling, that we're moving forward and seeing things happen. And then, so we'll probably publish it and get it in everyone's hand, and then we'll have our annual parish meeting in early January rather than late January, and the main agenda item will be to talk about this plan and where we're going for this year and kind of where we see ourselves as a parish. So that's where we're going. That's what I'm hoping to see happen. And the last thing I want to say is I want to encourage you as you're praying through our What's Next God prayer list. There is a prayer for God to kind of show us the future. And I want to ask that you really make that a real focus in your prayer time. God, speak to us. God, show us and give us clarity so we can move forward together under your leadership with intentionality, with greater clarity, and with a greater or a better stewardship of our resources and time as we do ministry together. So I'm excited about that. I hope you are too. I think God's got something exciting in store. And I think, we've been looking at some texts about the centrality of the church and God's love for faith. And I think he might call us in to some really cool, exciting things. And if he does, we'll follow him and we'll see what he wants to do with us. So that's it for today. So God bless. Have a great week, and I'll see you on Sunday. Bye.